Hello.
Hey, buddy.
Hey.
Okay, you know how I'm editing the Dragnet episode right now?
Yeah.
Do you remember a little further back in our podcast history when we accidentally watched the wrong Degrassi?
Oh, yes.
And do you also remember that time we thought Highway to Heaven was from the 70s, but it was actually from the 80s?
Are you saying we've made another mistake, Sarah?
We may have made a slight error. So, okay, we kind of did both of those things.
Wait. Are you telling me that MathNet was the original and Dragnet was the copy?
I know. I didn't think it was possible, but time travel, apparently? No. So apparently Dragnet started as a radio program in the 40s. And then there was a TV show in the 50s.
Uh-huh.
And then there was a revival TV show in 1967. And that is what we watched. So we watched the third iteration.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Actually. Now, there are some positives here.
Okay.
One, apparently, the radio show and the original TV show were, overlapped. And a lot of the early episodes of the TV show apparently were, they just took the audio from the radio program and then had people, lip sync it and, act it out.
What?
So maybe not super high quality, entertaining TV watching. Yeah,
that's wild.
So the other positive is that Dragnet 1967, which is the name of the program that we watched, aired on Nick at Night, whereas the original Dragnet, as far as I can tell, did not. So, in a way, we did watch the right show. We watched the right show, but we didn't know we were watching the right show that we didn't know we were watching the wrong show of.
This mistake fills me with such joy.
So I think we're absolved? A little bit.
Well, I absolve us.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yes, of all Dragnet crimes.
Whew!
Past and future.
This case will be thrown out of court. Our records will be wiped. We're free to go.
Oh, Sarah, wait, one more thing.
Oh, what is this, Columbo? No, strangely. Dragnet was just the facts, ma'am. Totally different catchphrase.
I have a Kickstarter going on right now.
Oh, do you?
I do.
Please, strangely, tell me, a person who knows nothing about this subject, what is this Kickstarter for and about?
I'm so glad you asked, Sarah Shea, a person who knows nothing about my current whereabouts or plans. As you may have suspected, I was recently in the Arctic aboard the tall ship Antigua participating in an artist residency.
I did suspect that. You seemed very suspicious.
I had an amazing experience. I got to see reindeer up close. I got a little bit of frostbite in one of my fingers. I climbed up to the top of the mast with my accordion and made the most epic music video ever. And I've got all kinds of stories to tell about it. So I've written a bunch of tiny little zines, like the ones I wrote for my last Kickstarter. And if people back this current Kickstarter, they'll get these tiny zines with stories about my travels in the Arctic. Plus, every zine will have a little QR code that you can see videos and listen to song recordings that I've made of some of the sea shanties I learned while I was on the boat.
Strangely, that sounds gosh darn delightful.
I like to think so.
How do I get all of this wonderful content?
Well, you can find links to it by searching for... Wow, I really should have thought about something easily searchable on Kickstarter for this. Because it's called Bruktebutiker, which is the Norwegian word for second-hand shop.
That is a great word for SEO.
Bruktebutiker?
Yeah, super easy to search for that on the internet. Well, I'll tell you what, strangely, just to give people a little extra ease in finding this, even though it would be so simple for them to just search this word, they definitely know how to spell. We'll go ahead and put that link on our social media, Twitter, Instagram, on our website, maybe even in the description of this episode.
That sounds like a really good idea, Sarah.
Yeah, you're welcome.
The Kickstarter is going to be ending at 9 p.m. Pacific time on June 22nd. So that's about 5 days from when this episode will go up. Wow. Please get in there before it happens. Every dollar that you donate is being matched by an anonymous donor. So if my Kickstarter reaches its goal of $5,000, I will actually be collecting $10,000 of funding.
Strangely, that's so much money. What will you do with it all?
I'm so glad you asked, Sarah. Out of over 100 applicants, I was one of 12 selected to be in the fall class at Fosen Folkehøgskole in Fosen, Norway. Fosen Folkehøgskole is a folk school that teaches traditional Norwegian handicrafts, and I'm going to be learning how to build Viking longboats by hand using traditional tools and techniques.
Of course you are.
Mm-hmm. So we basically, in the fall, we cut down the trees, we learn how to mill them, we have to make our own nails in the blacksmithing shop, we put the whole boat together, and then we learn how to sail it in the spring. And our final exam is we go down to England and we have to attack a monastery.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah, they're not protected anymore since Brexit.
Oh, that's perfect. Wow, that's amazing. Well, strangely, I am so excited to hear these stories and also to support your next exciting adventure.
Aw, thanks, Sarah.
You're welcome, buddy.
Okay, now we can start the episode.
Okay. Hi, I'm Sarah Shea.
And I'm Strangely Duesberg.
Welcome to the Pilot House.
Podcast where we watch all the shows we missed the first time around.
And try to figure out where the heck they were going with this.
Sarah, what do you know about Dragnet?
Well, it's not about math. That's about all I got.
Yeah, that's all I know as well.
So for anyone who's not familiar, Dragnet is, as far as either of us know, a 1960s crime show?
I think they are detective. Some
level of police, law enforcement. And we are both more familiar with a parody of it from a 90s kids educational program called Square One. And one of the segments within Square One was called MathNet, where two mathematicians solved math-based crimes, and they ripped off, as far as I know, their theme song wholesale.
Dragnet, I believe, had some version of, like, the names have been changed, but the crimes are real.
Oh, yes. Because in MathNet, they do that, the situations are made up, but the math is real.
The problems are real.
The problems are real. Yeah, that's right. And it was the two detectives, the two mathematicians on the show were, what's the guy's name? Fred or something like that. And then the woman's name is Wednesday. And she goes, my name is Wednesday. I'm a mathematician. And then some variation on the bum, ba-dum, bum.
Yep.
Ba, ba-dum, bum, bum. And I'm sure they must have tweaked it slightly, but I think they couldn't have used it just wholesale unless it was made by the same studio, but I don't think it was.
Yeah.
And the only thing I remember about MathNet, other than the intro section, is that there was an episode where Weird Al played a DJ, and that's where I learned what payola is. Very educational. And also, there's an episode where a parrot witnesses a murder or something like that, and it has something to do with the Fibonacci sequence.
The two episodes that I remember are one where they proved that an airplane couldn't have taken off and flown somewhere in a certain amount of time because the visibility was 0 that day, which would have made flying difficult. So they were also doing stuff about the weather.
Oh.
And there was one where there was a robot pitching. It was like a bad guy made a robot, and then the robot was a pitcher, and he was trying to get the robot pitcher into the Major League Baseball.
Oh, wow.
Pitching.
Honestly, we should try and dig up the first episode of MathNet.
We really
Or
should.
the first episode of Square One, if we can, because that show is a big part of my childhood.
But as should be obvious to all of you who are figuring along with us at home, we don't know anything about Dragnet.
I think the main character might be named Friday, and that's why her name was Wednesday. And I think eventually they had to replace that actress, and the new character's name was like Tuesday or something like that.
All right.
No, honestly, the biggest treat about this is going to be seeing how it's similar or different from MathNet, rather than what I know about Dragnet. Because I think Dragnet is quite serious.
Yeah.
But in my childhood, I would always get it mixed up with what's the funny crime show where the guy talks into his shoe?
Get Smart?
Get Smart, yes. I would always mix up Dragnet and Get Smart when I was a kid, because they were both grown-up shows I wasn't interested in, But Yeah, I think that Dragnet's quite serious. Mm-hmm. It's kind of maybe like the predecessor to Law and Order.
Yeah, the names have been changed. The crimes are real.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of this, like, ripped from the headlines police drama or something.
Which is why I say predecessor to Law and Order.
Yeah,
does
exactly.
the same kind of thing. But yeah. Other than that, yeah, I don't know anything. I don't know anything about the characters or actors that are in it or anything else. I don't even know exactly what kind of cops they are.
Dun dun.
So, shall we go find out?
Let's go find out.
The story you are about to see is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
2:08 p.m. Bill and I left Georgia Street Juvenile and headed for 1200 Loma Linda Avenue. It was 8 blocks from the office. It took us 4.5 minutes to reach the vacant lot where the strange-behaving juvenile was reported to have been seen.
Stand still.
Reality, man, reality. I could see the center of the earth. Purple flame down there, the pilot light. All the way down, the pilot light of
He's clean, Joe.
Creation,
except
reality.
for these.
Reality. What's your name, son?
You can see my name if you look hard enough.
Come on now, what's your name?
Don't you know my name? My name's Blue Boy.
What do you think, Joe? Cartwheels?
Oh, sugar cubes. I'll make you book. He's been dropping that acid we've been hearing about. All right, son. You're under arrest. It's our duty to advise you of your constitutional rights. You have the right to remain silent, and any statement you make may be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to the presence of an attorney. If you cannot afford one will be appointed before any questioning. Do you understand that?
There I am. I'm over there now. I'm not here anymore. My hair's green, and I'm a tree.
You ever see anybody this torn up?
Well, it's a cinch he's not strung out on sugar cubes.
Yeah.
All right. Let's take him to Central Receiving.
Come on, son.
Even if your body does die, your mind will live on.
Yeah, we know. Come on.
You're the dirty disbelievers. The evil disbelievers. Evil! Evil! Evil!
All right, come on, son. Settle down.
Brown, blue, yellow, green, orange, red. Red. I can hear them all.
Yeah, sure you can, kid. Let's go back to the office. We'll all listen.
Yeah, that was a lot of... It was so different from what we've been watching lately that it was surreal. It was both more or less than I was expecting.
Yeah, I mean, it hit me on so many different levels all at the same time.
Yeah.
So there was just like the tone was definitely a shift for sure.
Yeah.
But also as a cultural artifact.
Yeah.
As a stylistic artifact, like there were a lot of things going on with this. I mean, we were right. It was a cop show. Yeah.
I think the only thing I don't think we were actually outright wrong about anything. There were things we didn't know. Like they are LAPD police.
Police detectives.
Police detectives, yes. And in the intro that the names have been changed, but the crimes are real or whatever.
Yeah.
He says, Friday does the narration. He says, my name is Friday, but he doesn't say, and I'm Friday, I'm a cop, or whatever. Yeah. I was expecting it to be a more literal, like, my name's Friday, and I'm Wednesday, I'm a mathematician thing. But there was a thing he said about, like, something about, like, if your fun comes from in a number 5 pill, then that's when I step in, or something like that. And I went, oh, are they, like, are they on the narcotics division? Like, I didn't realize that. And then it seems like they're not explicitly, though.
No, I believe now, having watched this, bells were ringing for me as we watched this that I have seen episodes of this before at some point. I absolutely
have not.
And I believe that opening narration changes with every episode.
That's what I wondered.
It kind of sets up so this one was about teenagers getting high on LSD. So it sort of led into that. And I believe this kind of, that setup leads up to the point, and then that's where I come in. I think that's kind of a...
Oh, that's where I come in thing. Yeah, okay.
I could be totally wrong, but that's ringing a bell for me.
I did wonder, because I went, oh, wow, are they specifically narcotics? You did tease for me that the episode has something to do with the title.
Yeah.
It's
called The LSD Story.
Right, yeah. So I went, oh, here we go. But
Yeah, later on I thought about it and went, oh, that must be something that changes for every episode. Because they mentioned something about narcotics, so they are not.
Yeah.
But, the narcotics division. I think more or less everything was what I expected, except that I guess I just didn't expect they would go for LSD for their very first episode. I guess I expected it to be a little more exciting, or there to be more of like a mystery or something. It's really just two detectives. They're the only ones doing anything about this LSD situation. They are really like, oh, this stuff is awful. We have to get it off the streets. We have to stop these kids from ruining their lives. Like, it felt so earnest in a way I wasn't expecting.
And I think that stems from the fact that this show is clearly trying to be very fact-based.
Yeah. There was so much, like, narrations being like, all right, it's been 6 months. Now this is happening. And Wednesday afternoon, 3 p.m., we arrived at the place. And, like, that so much of like walking you through exactly how police work is done.
Because the show wants to be so fact-based.
Yeah.
It's really going for that ripped from the headlines presentation to the point of being overly earnest. Like there's the bit where they go and they're talking to the medical examiner, the police chemist.
Yes.
And he just like, he tells them the history of LSD and where it was made. And all that stuff is correct about the Swiss chemist and everything. It's all correct. And it's so earnest that, like, I mean, spoiler alert, I want to watch more of these just because I'm so curious of, like, what other things from that era they're tackling and having a show about. Because this came out in 1967, so it's like, you're coming out swinging.
It
is current events for, talking about acid.
Yeah,
in 67.
And... It felt, I don't know, I expected them to, I guess I was thinking of this as an earlier Law and Order, so I was imagining like, Law and Order gets a little exciting sometimes, and it like kind of amps up what's going on, but like, this felt kind of dry.
Yes, it is very dry. I also thought it was pretty funny. I think
yeah,
it's very dry humor, but like the cops they have a lot of like really droll one-liner quips.
So many that they are just set up for. They go to this, at some point they get a report of a pharmacy selling 5,000 empty number 5 capsules.
Yeah.
They mentioned the number 5 capsules several times, and I'm like, was that a much more common thing? Like, I know you can buy empty capsules.
Yeah, the biggest ones are 000.
Oh, okay.
I recently had to do
things.
some research on this for a unrelated project.
Wink.
Winky blinky.
But when they went to this guy to get the information about like who bought the capsules from you, the guy gives them the information gives them an address where they delivered the capsules to. Rookie mistake. Mm-hmm. And then as they're about to walk away, he goes, "Say, what do you fellas think they're going to put in those capsules?" And Friday says, "A lot of misery." Like, I just, okay, all right, sure, you can have that. But like, just they couldn't have made it like, it just seemed a little silly for this pharmacist to be like, it never occurred to me when they were buying them and I was delivering them to ask what they were going to put in them. I just didn't care. But now that there are cops here, I'm pretending to be... I don't think that was actually the note. I think he was just setting up Friday for the joke. But it felt a little bit like, why weren't you concerned about what they were going to put in them earlier?
He's just trying to cover his tracks now. It's like...
Gosh, but he doesn't say like, well, gosh, officers, if I had known, I never would have sold it to that boy or something like that. It doesn't say anything. But like, there are so many things they hit on this. Like, the episode takes place over the course of 6 months while LSD becomes illegal.
Yeah.
It starts, I don't know when LSD actually became illegal, but the episode starts before, and they catch a kid, or they arrest a kid for, acting like a weirdo in public. And then his parents come to pick him up and take him home. And they're like, now, there's no law against LSD, and there's no evidence that it's harmful. And you're acting like my son has been doing heroin or marijuana.
Which, spoiler alert, he's been doing lots of the latter.
Oh, yes, well. But they're like, how dare you imply that my son is some kind of addict? And they're like, no, well, we can still hold him for behaving intoxicated in public, even if what he was intoxicated with is not technically illegal yet. But then,
like under some like outdated but apparently still in the books at the time morality law.
Oh yeah. The way they said it did not, I don't know, maybe it was supposed to be something outdated that they used just to get him in on.
Yeah.
If you got that, I got it
that
as
was
like
the vibe I got.
The vibe I got was, this is perfectly normal routine police work. We regularly arrest people for behaving immoral.
Yeah.
Like, what year is this? But yeah, the main character, other than our two police intrepid detectives, is a drug taker cum drug dealer named Blue Boy, who is this whole episode. Really, the message I got from this was not LSD is dangerous. It was, this is why you don't get high on your own supply.
Yeah.
He leaves a giant bag of like thousands of tabs of LSD just like on a folding table.
Yeah.
It wasn't clear whether they had bought that from him. It seems like that would be a lot to buy at once. And then he still had more. Here's the thing. I was not alive in 1967, and I have never done LSD, so I don't know how accurate any of this is. Strangely, have you ever witnessed or partaken yourself? I don't know that I've ever knowingly witnessed someone on LSD either, so I'm an innocent baby.
I would like to invoke the 9th commandment. No,
Thou shalt not incriminate thyself? Is that one?
I genuinely am not... I'm not certain I'm aware of LSD in pill form. There was a little bit of confusion.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Even the way the episode was structured, it was at the end, they finally tracked the blue boy down and he's died of an overdose.
Yeah.
And they do say it's not, he took a lot of LSD and then he also took a bunch of barbiturates. But it's like the way the whole episode is structured, it's like it's the LSD what done him in.
Yeah.
But to the best of my knowledge, and a lot of my knowledge comes from Michael Pollan's book, How to Change Your Mind, which is about the history of psychedelics. Mm-hmm. No one has ever died of an LSD overdose.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there are some semi-anecdotal things of like someone falling off a balcony or like that kind of thing.
Right, yeah.
But
bad trip leads you to do thing that you die from.
Although that is also exceedingly rare. The stories of like teenagers blinding themselves by staring at the sun and that kind of stuff. It's a lot of urban legend and...
I was imagining more just like accidents. You fall off of,
Yeah.
You trip over something, you fall over a railing,
Yes, but even any physical harm accident are often greatly exaggerated.
Sure.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA.
Off avoiding Utah.
Of what? But that having been said, kind of this idea that as you get closer to whoever is making the LSD, there is going to be more of it in sort of larger and larger quantities. That does sort of scan, I think. But the portrayals of like as they get deeper into the acid scene start to skew away from reality in terms of I think there's probably some of it has to do with what they're allowed to show on television in the 60s.
Well, yeah. When they finally get to that acid party up in a big empty house in the Hollywood Hills, it's rather underwhelming.
Yeah.
Although, great use of diegetic music.
Because I even said at that moment, I was like, this music, I'm digging this score. And all of a sudden, like click.
Yeah, there's like some like groovy instrumental music playing. They get to this big house.
It's not just groovy. It's like the kind of detective show, like. Kind of walking bass line.
It matches the score that has been going on, which is fabulous.
Yeah, the score in this is so good.
It's so like the kind of it's exactly the kind of music that I have heard under 10,000 parodies of a noir voiceover. She walked into the room looking like the Indy 500, all curves and explosions. I stole that from someone, but it's so good it was worth stealing.
This is that drawing. She had a pair of legs that just wouldn't quit, and her eyes were like fire. So it was like they drew this like weird snake creature. She had a pair of legs that went on forever.
Yeah.
She like slithers in.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
But yeah, the music is just, it's wonderful. And the music in that scene then immediately registered as just more of the same, but the more groovy party, like psych out version of that music.
Yeah.
While a bunch of people in a single room that is almost entirely devoid of furniture, but has several bare light bulbs hanging at intervals from the ceiling, each of which has a different colored light bulb in it. And various people are standing around or sitting on the floor and just kind of acting high. The only person who's doing something interesting is one girl has taken her shoes off and is trying to climb up the wall. Mm-hmm. I thought that was kind of interesting. Everyone else is just kind of like slumped against the wall or like kind of swaying with their hands moving around to the music. And it's only maybe 5 or 6 people.
Yeah, that was what I was just like.
And one guy is painting some sort of mural on the wall, but also eating the paint. That guy was having a good time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it like you get the music playing, and you're like, oh, check out this lady. She's just swaying. This lady's trying to climb the wall. This one's just slumped over. This guy's eating paint, and then click, and you cut to the other guy, and he's sitting on the ground next to like an old, like reel-to-reel tape player, and he hits stop. And then he rewinds to get the and then he presses play and the music comes back. And I was like, fucking nice. I do appreciate that.
Speaking of all the teenagers that appear in this is a rare example of something that is that I'm watching that's vintage pre my lifetime, where everybody, like every teenager doesn't read as someone in their 40s.
Yeah,
they all read as young people. It was really like they nailed it.
So hard to hold that until you paused.
You're just allergic to accurate portrayals of teenagers?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm allergic to diegetic sound.
Oh, perfect.
I honestly did not feel like the portrayals of the teenagers was like too over the top. I would have expected slightly more. I mean, when they first find Blue Boy, he is wearing a like suede shirt that laces up partially at the neck, and on the back is painted in perfect, like over designed the way that like children's drawings and protest signs always are in movies and TV shows. The words "Live and Let Live," "Death to Fuzz."
Down with the fuzz.
Down with the fuzz.
Yeah. Excuse
me. Down with the fuzz. And it's like, it's very nicely done. It's very nice line work.
The way Friday looks at it shows a close up and then you see Friday seeing it and he's just like, like it's
yeah.
He doesn't say anything, but it's like, you know.
Yeah.
His face says it all.
Yeah. And the funny thing is this kid, in addition to the shirt, his face is painted half blue and half yellow. And they keep saying, trigger warning for racism, they keep saying he's painted up like an Indian. And I'm like, it looks like he's at a football game to me. Do people not paint their faces for football games yet in the 60s? Yeah, he just looked like he just looked like a big fan of insert team that has blue and yellow here. Oh wait, no, I know one. Hold on, like I got it. It's on the tip of my tongue. He just looked like a big Michigan U of M fan. I almost said Michigan State. Wrong one.
Because when the call comes in, and they're like
there.
getting ready to go out and arrest him, and they're like, he's all painted up like an Indian. I'm like, oh boy.
And then the chief's like, and he's doing something she'd never seen a human being do before.
And I was like, what?
What's that? And I'm ready for something wild. And like chewing the bark off a tree, and they all go, oh boy. Like was that? It was set up like a joke, or like we were really gonna be shocked. And I'm like, I mean, that's not great. But it's not. I guess I was expecting something. When you set it up with, he was doing something she'd never seen anybody do before. I guess I was expecting him to be just, I don't know.
Something unexpected.
Yeah, something more unexpected than just trying to chew the bark off a tree.
It's just taking aspirin. There you go.
Yeah, willow bark. Anyway, they go find the kid, and he is in an empty lot, and he has buried his head in the ground. Also, they are aggressively indoors and green screen to look outdoors. I was not expecting that. There were several scenes. There were some actual outdoor shots as well. But there were numerous scenes where not only were they shot on a green screen to look like they were outdoors, not moving, not in a car, just standing in a park. And they also did a lot of what's it called? Where it's back and forth. One person talking, cut to the other person talking, cut to this person talking.
Two shot?
Yeah. I thought two shot, and then I second guessed myself.
Yeah.
But, a lot of that, and them, on a green screen. Like, cut to Friday, what's the other guy's name?
I honestly don't know.
Oh, crap.
The sergeant?
The Silver Fox.
Yeah.
Commissioner Gordon.
I mean, I'm all about Friday. It's just like...
What's funny is
short and humorless and
what's funny is that Friday is the character I knew of.
Yeah.
But the other guy actually looked more familiar.
Yeah.
The actor looked more familiar. I'll look him up before we get to our That Guy segment, but he looked more like I've seen him in something. But like a lot of cutting back between the two. Mm-hmm. On a green screen. I was not expecting that much. Like the shot where they're on the Sunset Strip and there's just teenagers streaming by in their hip clothes. And the two guys are like standing there next to their car. That looked like it was actually out of doors.
Yeah.
And then someone calls to them, "Oh, Sergeant Friday," off camera. And they turn around and then cut to them on a green screen with these two girls again.
Yeah. Now that you're pointing all of that out, I almost wonder if the plot got changed and they had to shoot some insert scenes in post,
maybe,
to sort of string it all together.
Yeah, the way that they had the girls call them from off screen and then they cut to them walking up to them felt planned rather than just the girls might have just walked up to them or something. Mm-hmm. But you're right, it totally could be that. That would explain shooting.
Oh man,
the most boring green screen shot of all time.
That
two men standing in a park.
That Sunset Strip scene where the youths are protesting.
Yes.
One of them just has a sign that says, "We protest."
Oh my god. Mwah. I wondered if that was real footage or not, though, because it was a lot of people, and they never said what they were protesting. They just said teenage riots are going on. And the protests were not part of the plot at all. No. There was one of the signs seemed to imply something specific that the protest was about, and it said something about this is our strip as much as anyone's or something like that. And I'm like, okay, this has got to be footage of a real thing. But the sign that said, "We protest.
For a few, we all must suffer," was another one of the signs.
Yeah, and it was it might have been real footage or mocked up to look like real footage about a specific event that the viewers were expected to understand what these...
Well, I mean, this was the Vietnam was going on during this time. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there it was kind of interesting that it was impossible, as you're saying, it was impossible to tell what specifically was being protested.
Yeah.
It was just kind of protesting.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw the "We Protest" sign, I went, "There's gotta be." They didn't want to go with anything specific. Yeah. But then I saw, those other two signs that were specific, and it was I don't know what's going on here. Maybe that one girl with the sign was just a little dim. She's like, Well, what should I put on my sign? Well, how do you feel about it? I'm protesting. All right, we'll put that. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they're protesting WE. Obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big we?
Yeah, big we.
Big we.
Okay. Anyway.
Turn that W upside down. Okay, sorry.
Are you quite finished?
This would be big B. I'm done.
So, that thing about these two teenagers, they made such a big production out of what their ages were. They had these two girls who came in and had a bad trip.
Oh my god, that was such terrible expo.
Oh, it was so horrible. Yeah. So we've got these two young girls who come in. This is after the initial run-in with Blue Boy. Two girls come in. They've been talking to these other two detectives. A lot of detectives. A lot of cops. A lot of characters in this. And they kept mentioning the full names of a lot of other people.
Yeah. Again, that's that stylistic verisimilitude of, like, we know that it's always, like, 2:35 p.m. Like,
yeah.
So what time it is?
Sergeant Eugene Zappy was one of the names. Won't forget that anytime soon. But the detectives they've been talking to bring in our intrepid two to be like, you're going to want to hear what these girls have to say. First, tell them your ages. They could have just told the guys their ages. This one's 15, this one's 14. And then one of them says,
I'm 15. What are you now, 13? No, I'm 14. Just had my birthday last week. Oh yeah, I forgot. Edmund's 14.
Go on, son.
Was that necessary?
Well,
what?
I think it's like this clumsy attempt to be like, children as young as 13 are falling under the spell.
Sure. But still, like, tell the sergeant how old you are. I'm 15. I'm 14. Like, it feels like it could have been like, she's not even totally, she's just barely 14. But that was the most awkward. What are you now, anime 13? You know I'm 14. Also, the most stilted acting.
Yeah, the
Blue Boy was okay. I thought he did a very good job of acting like he was high.
Yeah, no, he was
pretty good.
He was pretty fun. And not it's really difficult, I think, to capture any kind of intoxicated or altered state acting and have it be not way too over the top or way too understated or anything like that. I mean, there's some bad high acting in this as well.
Yeah.
In sort of the larger party scene.
Keep your nose out of my purse. Keep your nose out of the drugs and I will. That was a great exchange at the party.
So good. But yeah, the Blue Boy actor definitely had, like, he kind of hit that sweet spot. And especially for something that's being made, again, back in the 60s when this is happening, it's like,
yeah, like I said, I do not have a lot of personal experience with LSD or witnessing people on LSD because I'm an innocent baby.
Yeah.
But I have seen a lot of depictions of people being high, and I have at least been able to sort of suss out when ones are a little bit over the top or just a little bit crazy. I've certainly seen crazy depictions of people on acid, and the ratings seemed pretty good for, like, the nonsense he was spouting when they first got him.
Yeah, and especially for something at the time that is clearly trying to portray this as acid bad.
Yeah. You'd think they would have gone more over the top. They certainly did in some parts of it, but yeah, he wasn't like an absolute gibbering idiot, like absolutely out of his senses. He was just saying a bunch of weird stuff and behaving weird, and he rips the Silver Fox Cop's sleeve.
He rips Friday's sleeve open.
Not Friday, the other guy.
Yes, Harry Morgan is the shorter one.
Yeah, and he got the sleeve of his coat ripped.
Yes, Bill Gannon. Okay.
Anyway, so yes, the other cop's sleeve of his coat gets ripped, which I love this touch. In the very next scene, it's been safety pinned back together.
Yep.
He doesn't get back to the office and it's like, you've had an extra jacket in the office, just go with it. No, he just safety pinned it. Adorable.
Yeah. And again, it's that, like, attention to detail, verisimilitude thing that they're really, really trying to, like, build here.
But they don't make a joke about it. It's not there as a gag. He doesn't go like, hey, it's the best I could do. You know, it's just there in the shot.
I think so it is there as a bit of a gag. Like, I think it's...
I know, they don't make a meal of it, though. Yeah. It's there, but they don't... Yeah, nobody points it out.
No, you're absolutely correct. That attention to detail is really lovely to see. Just even the way that they are filming vintage 60s LA.
Yeah.
And...
I had no idea it was set in LA.
Yeah.
No idea. I think if you had asked me... Just guess what city this is set in. Probably would have guessed Chicago.
Yeah, I would have guessed New York.
Yeah. Well, Chicago would have been my first guess. I don't know why. That's just the one that seems to fit what I knew about it before. And if you said it's not, then I definitely would have guessed New York.
Yeah.
And if you said it wasn't that, I would have gone, I don't know, some other Philadelphia? Like some other fairly large city? I do not think I ever would have guessed LA.
It's that is that indication of how much the Dick Wolf shows have kind of cast a long shadow over television police stuff, because I feel like those are more East Coast, at least in the earlier Laws and Orders.
SVU and the main Law and Order are both New York, right? Yeah. Because they are in the same universe. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think they're all in the same universe, but...
Every show ever is all in the same universe.
Whoa! You're blowing my mind, man. It's like I'm high. Oh my gosh. Can we talk for just a second about them going through all of the drug slang?
Oh yeah, that was delightful.
Yeah. There's a narration where he says, 6 months has passed, and they're about to actually pass we're about to find out they've actually passed the law. And Friday's talking about, like...
By now, the users had established their own language. The drug itself was now called the ticket, the ghost, the beast, the chief, the hawk, or simply 25.
And it was like, how many times have I heard this sort of thing parodied?
Yeah.
They call it, tripping, the beast... I can't remember half of them.
Yeah, it's a great
And
list.
then he ends it with a list of all these weird fake, drug slang names, and then, or simply 25. I'm like, why is that more simple than the others? What does the 20... Oh, that was part of the name.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, the like, technical name for it is like...
LSD 25.
Acid...
Yeah, nailed it.
Yeah. 25.
You should have explainer videos about it on YouTube.
I am great at this. But yeah, that's why I was like, simply 25. Like, why is that simpler? Simply acid would have made more sense, right? Like, it is a kind of acid, right? It is scientifically an acid.
Yeah.
It just seems like it would have made sense for him to say, or simply acid. That is what they call it. I'm so lost at that point. I'd forgotten all about that. But anyway, also, the thing about... So I've heard tripping, of course, right? Yeah. I would love to know if this part was real. About they call it going on a trip, so they call the drug their ticket, and they call their dealer their travel agent. It might be real, but it sounds so overly high concept.
Yeah, that could honestly go either way.
The cops bring in this guy, and they're like, "All right, tell him what you told us. Who's your travel agent?" I don't know what you mean, man. Where'd you get the ticket? Like,
yeah.
The cops using drug slang is always funny. It will never not be funny.
Even the young drug user in universe is confused by the drug slang that the cops are using.
Yeah, he's like not really following them. And then he's, when he's like, "Will you testify to that?" What does that mean?
Swear to it.
We swear in a court of law that this guy Blue Boy sold you the drugs. He's like, "Well, wouldn't you if you were me?" What's that supposed to mean? He sold me 2 bum trips. That asshole. That guy. Oh man, amazing. Now I will say that at least one person, they asked them their age and they said 18, and I went, I'm feeling more 25, but the guy at the very end.
Oh yeah.
They find in Blue Boy's apartment, which is fairly well decorated.
Yeah.
For the squat that this like wild drug addict / dealer has been living in for like 3 months.
And ostensibly making acid in?
Yeah, they never go into whether he's... guess they sort of imply he's making the acid
like,
because he's got the capsules.
Well, yeah, and they let him out. Like, he gets out on probation or whatever.
Yeah.
After the initial arrest.
Yeah.
And then acid starts showing up in the streets again, and they're like, how long does it take to brew a batch of acid? And he's like, 2 or 3 days. It's like, It's like...
Takes a lot longer than that to rustle up a law. Doesn't it? Yeah, I guess it does. If only we could take the law into our own hands!
Gotta wait for the 80s for that.
Womp womp. But yeah, the bit with,
I'm sorry, that was a RoboCop reference, but then you going wah wah. I'm just like imagining that noise as RoboCop appears.
Beautiful.
I
did not know that you were specifically making a RoboCop reference.
It wasn't a good one, and that's why I was like, I'm gonna actually point that out, just because the image in my mind of like RoboCop all badass getting out of the whatever his like RoboCop cop car, and then it's just like he stands up, and then it's like womp womp.
Someone please make that happen.
Shall we move on to our first segment?
Yeah, I guess we're ready for that.
All right. Where did the money go? This is my special little hobby corner where we talk about how we think they spent money on this first episode of a given TV show. Mm-hmm. It was really that very detailed suede shirt, I think, is really where the budgie went.
Cannot have been cheap. All that green screen.
Yeah.
Must have been expensive. I'd say all the outdoor shooting, despite the fact that they also did green screen fake outdoor shooting, they also did quite a lot of outdoor shooting. All the shooting on the strip.
Yeah.
Because, like, I mean, some of that could have been stock footage or whatever. But then they did at least one shot of, like, a bunch of people are walking by. And not noticeably less or a different kind of people than were walking by earlier in the shots of the protests. And they have the both of the detectives right there, so...
Yeah, and this is something where, I mean, I already mentioned that I want to watch more of these, but I'm really curious if this is one of those older shows where if you watch multiple of them in a row, it's like, that's the same pharmacy they went to. They just always go to this pharmacy? Or like,
yeah.
This is the same dive bar they always find the guy in. Like,
yeah.
Why don't they just post a cop in there? But, I mean, in terms of a pilot, they really did a pretty good job of making it feel like these guys were driving all over L.A. to crack this case. Like there's definitely, like, multiple locations and stops that have to be made. And it did really feel like they were kind of gumshoeing a case. And gumshoe, I guess, is more of a reporter. They were really just, they're being a couple of dicks.
No, it doesn't gumshoe. A detective.
A detective. It is a detective.
Although I usually hear it referring to a private detective.
Right.
Less than, but I might be wrong about that.
Public dicks.
Public dicks. These guys are dicks in public. There were quite a lot of shots of them driving places and really establishing where we are because we are going for this realness. Yeah. Yeah, it was probably a little bit of that. Plus, it probably cost a lot of money to fix up the other sergeant's suit. Would have been funnier if I could remember his name. Bill's jacket. They had to fix Bill's jacket. Yeah. It's not cheap.
Cliffs and Chips!
In this section, we like to talk about general predictions for the future of the show. In specific, ideas for a season 1 cliffhanger and any relationships we would like to see develop or change. I don't think there's much to be shipped in this, as there often is in cop shows.
Season 1 cliffhanger, last shot, Bill and Friday walking up the steps, pulling the pull bell at the Addams Family house.
Sure.
What will this show be?
So I know we jumped right to this segment really quick, but I think it's because, as you mentioned to me after we got done watching it, that there's not room for a lot of overarching in this.
Yeah.
And it really is just going to be a day-to-day procedural.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't see there being room for a lot of character stuff. I don't think that's what they're doing with this show. I guess they could eventually, I don't know how long it ran, but we might eventually meet, one of those wives or something like that. But I don't think there's going to be a lot of at-home stuff and their personal lives. I think it's going to be every week you get these two guys, they get a crime. By the end of it, they've solved the crime. Mm-hmm. They've arrested the perpetrator.
Yeah, it's like some point on I think on Harmontown, Dan Harmon points out that the whole first season of Law and Order is just Detective Munch doing his thing, just solving crimes. You know nothing about him, and then like the very last episode, like as he's leaving the office for the day, his sergeant or somebody's like, "How's the sobriety going?" And he goes, "1 day at a time. Credits. Dick Wolf." And like he's like, "It was revolutionary. You learned so much in that one sentence." But it's like the tone of the show of Dragnet for me is like, it's just like this weird little like stylized documentary snippets of the 60s of like through this very, very idiosyncratic lens.
Sure, yeah.
And I wouldn't want anything overarching from this because I just I want like I want to watch another one of these and just be like what are the titles? Like, it's called paper hanging, writing bad checks that they don't intend to cash. Like that kind of thing. Like I can hear it.
Yeah.
Even if I haven't seen it,
Yeah. I could definitely see that.
The newest craze is stealing car doors to make improvised surfboards.
These young men have been nicking policemen's helmets.
Yeah.
We've brought one of them in to speak to you now, Sergeant Friday. I say, Jeeves, what's going on here? Oh, lovely jacket these policemen have. You Americans are so forthright. Sorry, that was a Jeeves and Wooster reference. I apologize.
I'm with you.
For nothing. Okay, shall we just sail on to the next sequence? Hey, it's that guy.
We like to take this time to mention anybody that we recognized from other productions in this episode.
Yeah, any that guys, character actors who may have been familiar to us, whether we knew what we knew them from or not. Mm-hmm. And there is a pretty good one in this particular episode.
All right, hit me.
Which is that Bill, the non-Friday cop.
Yep.
Looked so familiar to me, and I was like, why should he be so immediately familiar? And Friday I went, I guess that's the face of this character. So I looked him up. He was on a show that I watched also in the same period of my life when I was watching a lot of these other older shows. I can't remember if it was on Nick at Night or not, but I was definitely watching this show in reruns as a kid, and I watched it a hell of a lot more than I ever did Dragnet. Mm-hmm. He was on MASH. He was Colonel Potter. Yeah. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Did you look it up, or did you know it when you saw him?
I had to look up the name, but I've watched some MASH recently.
Oh, well then you have one up on me. I haven't watched it since I was a kid.
He's the one who's always like kicking Klinger around.
Yeah. I was like, oh, God. Thank God, because it was really, I was going to be really annoyed if it went, I don't know. It's just one of those times you see a face.
And that's what's funny about seeing him on this is that he's so like laconic hangdog, like showed up at the office and dealt with these kids.
Yeah, he doesn't talk all that much.
Kind of like laconic quips, whereas like Colonel Potter is like, God damn it, what's going on in here?
Yeah. Totally different tone of the show and a very different character. Yeah, that's delightful.
He was also in High Noon, so this is like, he's a guy who's had some years.
Yeah. Well, I think that's about it. Mm-hmm. Does that
that covers that guy?
Our next segment.
I choose you.
Who's our favorite character? Who do we want to see more of? Who do we want to see flourish? There's not that many characters to choose from in this show.
It's Bill for me.
Yeah.
Like I could take or leave Friday at this point. It's all about just the Bill standing there being like, okay.
My impression is that these characters will not grow at all. They will stay exactly the same.
Yeah. They'll just hang out. I mean, they'll probably be the case that's too much.
Yeah.
We might get some humanity, but...
Yeah, although this, normally we pick out the person that we want to see more of from the regular cast, I would like to give just an honorary mention to Blue Boy, our villain, with that actor just like... was just having a time.
Yeah, he was having a ball, for sure.
Also, the manager of his apartment building who said, "There's another boy in there, and they were whooping it up." She did it pretty good. She was delightful. Which takes us to...
Final verdicts.
Did this pilot do the job of a pilot and make you want to watch more?
I'm kind of on the fence. Like you said earlier, I'm curious to see what other topics they're going to tackle. And kind of curious to see the 60s in LA through this weirdly specific lens. But maybe not enough to actually do it, you know?
Yeah.
It's so dry. I just don't know that I'm like...
For me, I almost find the dryness appealing.
It is a bit refreshing, weirdly enough, after the absolute shenanigans of the past few shows that we've watched.
Yeah.
Like, compared to I Dream of Jeannie and Bewitched and the Addams Family, this is sort of a breath of stale air.
Yeah, in a sense.
It's not it's sort of a
Look, you can
calming...
get all the cheeses you want, but
yeah.
you're gonna need some Ritz at some point. Like you're gonna need a cracker. You know, this is the
that
dry
was
cracker.
good.
Right? Huh?
Yeah, I like that. That yeah, nice.
Oh, yeah.
All right, I'm feeling it, man.
Yeah.
I'm digging it. I'm over there. I'm not here anymore. Is that it? Do we have anything else?
I've already mentioned that I want to watch more of these, and that's definitely still the case. Like as we've talked about it, sometimes with a show, I kind of think I want to watch more, but by the time I'm done talking about it with you to make an episode of this podcast, I'm like, I think I've gotten all the mileage out of this that I could get.
Yeah.
But genuinely, this is the first one of these 60s shows or Nick at Night shows that we've watched for this podcast where I'm like, I want to tell people about the guy. You know, I'm going to be talking about this in my private life with my friends.
Like, have you ever actually watched Dragnet?
Yeah, because it's so stylized.
Yeah. No, I don't know that I agree with that.
In the sense that it's really leaning into it's so stylized. It's the noir narration and the fact that it's giving you the specific times and like they're really going for a verisimilitude of like we're basically reading you a police report and acting it out as it happened.
Yeah, the whole thing at the end too. That was very. You're right. That is a really accurate way to describe it. They are reading a police report and showing some of the actions along with it.
I mean, when we say stylized, you know, we're thinking of like everybody's wearing purple or something like that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I was thinking like, what? I don't think of it as stylized, but it did have, it was doing some very specific things, and it was going for a very specific structure. Yeah.
Which, just to bring this full circle back to what we were talking about in the What We Know at the beginning of this episode on the way out, one last thing. I think that this, you know, highly specific storytelling thing that they've got going on here is what made MathNet so iconic and memorable in our youths, is that the way the narration went and the fact that they're always telling you what time it is and sort of like that really, really dry delivery, even though the situations might be absurd. Yeah. And possibly even I could see this show really getting a lot of mileage out of, we found him hiding. And then it's like, you know, he's like behind a bush. It's like the visual is maybe more humorous than the dry delivery of the narration. Yeah. I vaguely remember that Dragnet kind of had some funs with that as well over time. I could be wrong, but again, I want to watch more of these just to check that out. Yeah. But just, you know, the fact that we both had these like really fun, exciting memories of MathNet. Yeah. I think owes a lot to the stylistic choices of Dragnet. Not just like, this is definitely a show that's ripe for parody because of how specific it is. Yeah. And I, you know, mad props, because to make something that is instantly recognizable.
Yeah. No, certainly. I can see why it became so popular. Mm-hmm. Although I'm curious how it compared to other cop shows at the time. Mm-hmm. Was part of the reason this became so popular that previously TV shows depicting police detectives and crime, anything about law and order, wank, was a lot more sensationalized and like exciting, like dramatic crime, excitement, adventure. And this was so popular because people are like, I feel like they're showing us what it's really like. You know, was that what made it catch on and become so, admittedly, incredibly famous, beloved, iconic, and influential? I don't know the answer to that, but I'd be surprised if that wasn't the case.
Me as well.
Good. I'm glad we agree.
And on that note,
bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Pilot House. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Pilot House Pod. Visit our website, pilothousepodcast.com, or email us at pilothousepodcast@gmail.com to suggest future topics.
Please share this episode with a friend or rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It helps people find us.
Our podcast is entirely listener supported.
So thanks to our special guest stars, Cynthia, Tina, Juniper, and Jerry.
Visit patreon.com/pilothouse to find out how you can become a series regular.
Pilot House is a Herringbone Society production.
They must be way out to leave the door unlocked.
That's weed.